Narayana Narayana Hari 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 Om Namo Narayana Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Srimad Narayana Narayana Hari Hari 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 Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Srimad Narayana Narayana 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 Hari 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 Om Namo Narayana Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Hari Om Namo Narayana Srimad Narayana Narayana Hari Hari 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 Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Srimad Narayana Narayana Hari Hari Srimad Narayana Narayana Hari Hari Srimad Narayana Narayana Hari Hari Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Tere Leela Prabhu hai Nyari Nyari Hari Hari Hasado Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. All together. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you for the beautiful music as always. It's such a gift to have sacred sound. A lot of us, particularly from the West, where music is just something we do to be entertained, we don't realize the impact of sound on us. I mean, we may think, oh, I love this music, or oh, this music makes me happy, or I don't like that music. But we don't really realize the impact of sound the way that here in India there's such a science of the sound. And when you think about it, what you realize is, well, of course, because sound is energy. Light is energy. Electricity is energy, right? Nobody doubts the impact of light. We know the impact of the sun on us versus darkness on us. We know the impact of light that's too bright. But we don't usually really think about the impact of sound like that. And yet it impacts us just the same way. I mean, they're literally waves that are coming out of their beautiful mouths and into our ears. And it's not just about, I like it, that sounds good. But it actually, and this is where we have such an emphasis on the science of mantra, the aspect of chanting and kirtan. It's not just nice music. It's actually energetically changing us. It's actually going into our brains and our bodies and changing us. So whenever you have the opportunity to chant kirtan, be in the presence of kirtan, it's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity. I'll begin as always with a question that's come in advance, and then open it to any questions that anyone here may have. What is the relationship between love and power? Love is the greatest power. Love is the absolute greatest power that we have. When you don't have love, you use all of your other power to get love. If we have money, we try to use our money to buy love, whether it's I'm going to dress myself up so beautifully that no one will be able to resist me, whether it's I'm going to use the money to buy you gifts and then you will love me, or whether it's I'm going to convince you, I'm going to use the power of my words, I'm going to force you to love me, the power of my power. But what we know is it never works. Has anybody ever been able to buy someone's love? Have you ever heard of it working? Has anyone really fell in love with someone because they gave you something? And it's tragic because we literally, what we want at the core of our being is love. And we do everything to get there. If I have this job that I hate, but I'm going to keep doing it, even though it's, going to kill me because it's completely out of alignment with what I think and believe, with all my ethics and values. But if I do it, I'm going to get money. And if I get money, then I'll have nice things. And if I have nice things, then people will like me. And if they like me, then presumably maybe one of them will actually love me. Or I'm going to keep doing this job because with this job comes power or fame or acclaim. And if I have that power and fame and acclaim, then I will be something. And if I am something, then people will love me. But any of you sitting in here, have you ever loved someone because of the money they had? Has anyone in here ever loved someone because of money they had? Has anyone in here ever loved anyone because they were powerful or famous? So, ironically, it doesn't work. And here's what's even more tragically ironic. If instead of pura chakar lagake to get back to love, if instead of going way out of our way in order to find love, we actually simply became love, what we would find is A, we had love, which is what we'd always wanted, and B, we had power. Not the type of power to wield over people, to make them do what we want. But again, remember, we only want them to do what we want because we think through that, I'm going to be happy. I only need you to act according to my way. Because I think if you do, then I'll be happy. If you don't, I'm not happy. And if you do, then I'll be happy. So love and power, if you're trying to use power to get love, it never works. But if you realize that love is the power and that the greatest power you have in you is love, that's your greatest power. And here's the beautiful thing about love. It doesn't come from outside, it comes from inside. Because then a lot of us think, well, I don't have anyone to love, so it means I'm powerless. Or I loved that guy, but then he stopped loving me, so now I don't have love, so I'm powerless. Or I loved that girl, but she's never loved me, so I'm powerless. But actually, it's not like that. Love is something that we actually create within us. On a deeper level, we're actually accessing that which already exists. Love is who we are. And if you doubt that, think back to a moment of being in love. Close your eyes for a moment and just think back to a moment of being deeply and completely in love. Just take a few seconds and hold that moment in your mind and heart. Okay, open your eyes. What did you feel in that moment? When you feel love, when you think back to that moment of love, what do you feel? What do you feel? Well, we know you feel love. What else do you feel? What do you feel when you feel love? Anybody feel peaceful? Love make us feel peaceful? Anybody feel that sense of like you've just sort of slipped into a warm bath for the soul? Anybody feel expansive? All right, let's look at it the other way. Anybody feel contracted? Okay, so yes to expansive, no to contracted. So love makes us feel all of those things because we're no longer putting on a show. We're no longer wrapped up in our dramas and our stories and our identities. When you're really in that moment of love, it's the truth of who you are. Now here's the beautiful key. Love is produced within you. Another person might be the catalyst through which you experience love. So I see you, and when I see you, something about seeing you makes my internal love manufacturing plant get turned on. And so I manufacture love, and then I say, oh, I love you. And that may be true, I may love you, but my love isn't dependent on you. You've been a catalyst for me to experience the truth of who I am. And that's really important. The flashlight, if you walk up to a mirror in the dark and you hold up a flashlight on your face so that you can see, or you need to brush your teeth, the electricity's gone out, you've got no electricity, so you take a flashlight to go brush your teeth in the mirror. And the flashlight shows you your face, but it isn't your face. It's just showing you your face. Nobody would mistake the flashlight for the face. We understand it's just showing me my face. In the same way, you have catalyzed my experience of love, but you aren't the love. That love is in me. And the reason that this is so important is it means regardless of whether anyone loves us back, regardless of whether we have a loved one or a beloved, especially a romantic beloved, it doesn't matter. If you want one and you have one, fine, great. If you want one and you don't have one, don't worry, it'll happen. Just turn on your own internal love manufacturing factory and you'll exude love and it'll draw love, it'll happen. If you don't have one and you're not looking for it, great. You still can experience love because it's within you. You don't need another person to catalyze it. I always say, these air conditioners back there, they give us cold air. You people on the couch in the back, you're getting the most. Me up here in the front of the room, I'm getting the least. If we walk out this door and we go around to the other end of the wall, you get 0. Because the air conditioning, the cold air is in that machine. It's a product of the machine. When you're close to it, you get a lot. You're far away, you get a little. Farther away, you get none. But that's not how love works. We think, oh, I've lost my loved one. My love is gone. No, it isn't. That love wasn't coming out of your loved one to you. You were manufacturing it. Because when your loved one got up and went to the kitchen or went to the bathroom or went to work or got on a plane to fly to London for some work, you didn't feel any less love. Get 100 feet away from that air conditioner, you won't feel any cold air. But get 100 feet away from your loved one, you still feel love. Get 1,000 feet away, you still feel love. Get on the other end of the world, you still feel love. Which means it's not in them. It's in you. And that is your power. Because, number one, when you experience love, you experience the truth of who you are. When we talk about divinity and soul and consciousness, it is love. It is that same spirit and divinity that runs the creation of the universe. Look at the rain, look at a sunset, look at a flower, look at a river. This is love in action. This is love embodied. When we touch love, we are touching our oneness with creation. Number 2, it's your greatest power because love makes everything possible. Love is the only thing that makes the impossible possible. And whether it's the adrenaline, the literal chemical rush of adrenaline that enables a 90-pound woman to lift a car off of her newborn child, or a mother to run through the jungles all night long with her child in her arms to get them to a hospital. Anybody who has ever been in love has done something for love that you didn't think you could do otherwise. Might be something with the brain, might be something creative, might be something physical. But every one of us, if we've been in love, we've done something for love that we never thought we could do otherwise. And number 3, it's the greatest power we have because it is the only power that actually brings about the change that is needed in the world. When we look around and we see poverty, and we see illness, and we see environmental destruction, and we see wars, the only power to change that is not the power of power. That comes in handy, yes, but you've got to wield that power only when it's coming from love. Power that's not rooted in love makes situations worse, not better. Because power that's not rooted in love separates. And separation is the core cause of everything that is going wrong in our world. We feel separate from ourselves, from each other, from people of other colors, other races, other religions. We feel separate from Mother Earth. We feel separate from future generations. It's what's bringing about everything raining. See, when there's no electricity in my mic, you get a new mic. If there's no electricity at all, we talk louder. It's not a power that's infinite. We can always figure out a workaround with the lack of electricity. But when there's a lack of love, there is no workaround. As anyone who's been in a loveless marriage knows. As anyone who sees what's happening in our world today knows. And so our greatest calling, we talk a lot in here about waking up to the divinity of who we are. And when we touch that, we touch love. And lastly, I could go on all night about love, but I'll end this question here. If you're looking for God, you're looking to experience God, feel God, know God, and if you're not able to do it easily, if it feels very, very complicated, like I sit down to meditate, but I don't feel God, don't worry. Just feel love. Find someone to love. If you can't love God, don't worry. if you can really love anyone, you are loving God. Because if it's real love, what you're loving is their essence. If what you're loving is their body, that's called lust. If it's form, you're loving. Body, you're loving. Package, you're loving. It's lust. Lust isn't only sexual. Lust is objectification. But if you're really loving, what you're loving is spirit. You're loving essence. You're loving soul. Which means you're loving God. And through that love, whether you love a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a child, the tree in your backyard, the flowers of your garden, whatever you can love, as you love them, just realize you're loving God through them. And as you look at them and as you feel love, allow that love to expand until you experience love not of them, but you experience love through them. And then you're loving God. And when you love God, you know God. And when you know God, that's all the power in the world. Before taking another question that's come in advance, I'm happy to open it up to any questions that anyone here may have, if anyone has any. Yes. Great question. So when I'm talking about God, she said, am I talking about a particular God, or is it more of a metaphor? Neither. And everything. In the Hindu tradition, you look around and you see so many different aspects of God. And so when we come to India, when we start learning about this beautiful Vedic tradition, we think, oh, okay, so we have so many different divine manifestations. And not only of this tradition, of all of our traditions. And then what you realize when you study a little bit more is, well, actually, there's really only one God with many manifestations. But then you go deeper, and what you find is actually, it's not one God. It's nothing but God. And so it's not a particular God. Could be any of them. Because every single one of them is a manifestation of the same one divinity. Here's a way to think about it, and this is a metaphor. Think about waves on the ocean, okay? So imagine that the ocean is infinite. Not just the Pacific or the Atlantic, but an infinite ocean. And on that infinite ocean you have waves. Now, what's the truth of that wave? The highest truth of that wave is its ocean. Even while it's in that moment, taking that form of the wave, it's still ocean. It's never stopped being ocean. There's nothing but ocean. Big waves, small waves, tidal waves. Ultimately, nothing but ocean. In the same way, there's nothing but God. And so when I talk about God, I'm talking about any way that works for you to experience God. It can be, sometimes we think of God with form. There are certain religions in the world that think of God as having a form, having a name, having characteristics. There are certain religions that think of God as having no name, no form, no characteristics. Doesn't matter. Here's the thing. As a mother, imagine you had 5 kids of different ages. And one child called you mom, and another child called you mommy, and another child called you mama. And the baby couldn't say anything. Would you care? Would you love one more than the other? Would you love the one who said mom more than the baby who went mama, mama, mama? Wouldn't matter. Because what you know is every one of them is loving you. And this is the same with God. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what name or form you use. So when I talk about God, I talk very, very generally. However you connect to that divine, to that supreme. Say God, say universe, say consciousness, say supreme reality, say divine energy, say spirit. It doesn't matter. Here on the banks of Ganga is the giver of liberation, the giver of freedom. People bring ashes to Ganga, to immerse the ashes in Mother Ganga, to have liberation for the loved ones. To have liberation for the loved ones. But Ganga gives us liberation while we're living as well. But it doesn't matter how you get in. So here at Parmarth we have marble steps that go down into Ganga. Downriver, there's a cement slope with a railing. Upriver, there's a sandy beach. Upriver further, there's some rocks. There's innumerable ways to get into Ganga. Doesn't matter. Get in however you want. Ganga's not offering extra blessings to people who get in one way compared to people who get in the other way. Doesn't matter. What matters is just get in. And it's the same thing with God. Don't worry. God's definitely not just a metaphor. God's an existence. But however you connect to God, we use metaphors because we can't explain God correctly. There's no actual way to use words to describe the wordless. So we use metaphors. We kind of dance around the truth because we don't have words to explain it. So metaphors can point us there. But when you get there, it's very real. And so I would say use whatever metaphor works for you to get there. Higher self, divine self. Whatever works. Any door, any path, any way. Just get in. Get in and connect. Because as long as we hold the idea of God as the possibility of being any one of lots of different separate things, we're minimizing what God is. God is you. That's not a metaphor. God is every one of you. We're waves of the ocean. And our highest calling is to know that and experience it. Thich Nhat Hanh, the very famous Buddhist sage, said enlightenment is when the wave realizes it's the ocean. So go in, whatever name, whatever concept, whatever way works. But dive deep to a place of experience. Yeah. We have time for one more question. If there are any questions here before taking any others that came in advance, I'll take any here if there are any. Yeah.
My question is, what spirituality in real is, and what is the difference between reality and spirituality?
Great. What is spirituality in these days, like the modern times, right? And what's the difference between spirituality and reality? Spirituality is reality. There are two ways of looking at the world. One is that everything is made of matter. Okay? The other is everything is spirit. Now, they're both true. Going back to the earlier metaphor about the wave in the ocean, they're both true. Just because the wave's highest truth is ocean doesn't mean that the wave isn't true. Take a surfboard, go out into a wave, and if you don't know how to surf, you'll discover the truth of that wave. Try to go out and swim in a tsunami. You will discover the truth of the wave as you die. So it's very real. When we say its truth is ocean, that doesn't mean that there isn't a truth of wave as well. There's a truth of the mouthful of sand that you get when, if you didn't die, it just slams you face down into the sand. There's a truth of how out of breath you are. But the highest truth of the wave is ocean. If you look at a wave under a microscope, what you see is ocean. Similarly with us, and with everything in the world, a person, a tree. Forms are different. Small wave, big wave, nice surfing wave, tsunami, get out of the ocean wave. Lots of different forms. But ultimately, look at any of us under the divine microscope. We don't have one of those yet, but we're getting close. We now have electron microscopes, so at least we can see beyond blood cells. We can now see down to a level of energy. If you could look at any of us under a divine microscope, what you'd see is, soul. So there's two ways of looking at the world. Matter, form. Spirit, content. And it's not about right or wrong, but it is about higher truth. And the reason that spirit is higher truth is it doesn't change. Matter keeps changing. The shape and size of your body keeps changing. How much it earns keeps changing. What it can do keeps changing. As anybody over the age of, 40 or 45 knows when you try to do certain athletic feats that you did when you were young. The body at 45, 50 is not the same as the body was at 20. Doesn't mean it's better or worse, just means it's changed. Our bodies keep changing. Spirit doesn't. Our roles keep changing. The jobs we play keeps changing. Our relationships keep changing. My size, my shape, even the color of my skin keeps changing. I sit in the sun too long, I get a very distinct red color of my skin. Keeps changing. Spirit doesn't. So lower truth is that which does change. And so the material world keeps changing. So spirituality is the higher truth. Doesn't change. But as we move through the world, we use both of our sights. We look at form. So as I walk out of this room, I have to be careful not to trip over that table. I need to be aware of the size and shape and position of my body, particularly in relation to the table, so I don't trip over it. So you move through the world, you're aware of the size and shape of your body in relation to other people. We're aware of the roles we play. We're aware of our material surroundings, no problem with that. But we don't identify as them. So I'm aware of where my body is in space. I'm aware of how tall it is, approximately what size it is. I don't wear pants, but if I needed to buy pants, I would have to have some idea of approximately how long are my legs, how round is my waist. But I don't identify as it. I can see it, but I don't identify as it. And so the highest reality is spirituality. Like the highest reality of the wave is ocean. But we need to be aware and skillful with navigating the material world, the same way that you need to be aware and skillful of navigating waves that are going to drown you, or at the best give you a mouthful of sand. Just because its highest truth is ocean doesn't mean that we disregard the form of the wave. So my highest truth is soul, spirit. But I'm aware of the body. When I see you, when I move through the world, instead of identifying you as your body, as your size, your shape, oh, he's, too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, I identify as soul. Soul. I remember when I first came to India, in my first year, we went to one of the English medium schools in Rishikesh. They were having their annual day. And each of the classes put on a dance performance for us. But the littlest kids hadn't yet gotten good enough in English to do their dance in English. They were the, pre-kindergartners, 3-4-year-olds. And so they did theirs in Hindi. And it was a little dance, and it was very cute. And I'll translate into English in a moment, but it works much better in Hindi. So I'll give it in Hindi first. So the dance was a little girl, and she was all decked out in like full-on marriage gear and, the clothes and the bangles and the whatnot. And 2 other kids played her parents. Remember, they were all 3-4 years old. And one by one, they would bring out a little boy. And the little girl would dance, and she sings, "Acha gad ka ladka hai, lekin thoda sa mota hai." Mahi shaadi nahi karungi, nahi karungi, nahi karungi. And she'd dance, and then the parents would take the boy out, and then they'd bring in another boy, and she'd say, Acha gad ka ladka hai, lekin thoda sa patla hai. Mahi shaadi nahi karungi, nahi karungi. So one by one, of course, the parents bring them all. So the English of this is, one by one, this little girl rejects every boy because this one is too fat, this one is too skinny, this one is too tall, this one is too short. And it was very, very cute because they were 3 and 4. But in life, we do the same thing. And it's very cute when it's 4-year-olds dancing on a stage talking about "Main shaadi nahi karungi," I won't get married. But in life, it becomes tragic. As we move through our lives, judging and identifying people, judging and identifying ourselves based on the shapes of our bodies, the color of our skin, how much money we make, the size of our house, the size of our car. And so spirituality says, move through the world seeing people as spirit. As you see yourself as spirit. They have a body. Be respectful of their body. Don't bump into it. But don't identify them as it. In the same way, take care of your body. But don't identify as it. Let your reality be spirit. You'll see the difference it makes in your life. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. I will see you all tomorrow. And if you have a question that you feel shy to ask in public, you can get it in writing to Sevanandaji, and he can get it to me on the paper that we begin with. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful night.